films as well. But I feel is one of those kind of underappreciated actors that are just known as one of. Why, hello there YouTube and welcome back to Winter Week Sub-Zero. So we're on day 3 now, and for that one I'm reviewing 30 Days of Night. Yes, written by Steve Niles, Stuart Beatty and Brian Nelson, based on the comic books by Steve Niles and Ben Templesmith, and directed by David Slade, starring Josh Hartnett, Melissa George, Danny Huston, Ben Foster, and Mark Boone Jr. So this is a supernatural horror where it's set in a small Alaskan town. They're in the Arctic Circle and they're about to endure a whole 30 days of nighttime as it's the winter. And as they do that, they buckle up for the winter. They soon find that they're all fallen prey to a clan of blood-hungry vampires led by a vampire named Marlowe, played by Danny Huston. And of course, they go to town on these people. They rip them to shreds. They drink blood from them. They feast as they enjoy the 30 days of night. And Sheriff Eden, played by Josh Hartnett, has to protect as many people as he can from this feeding frenzy and survive the 30 days of night. So what did I like about this one? Well, I liked that I don't think I've seen anything like this before as a movie. I realise now it's based on a comic book series, and it did get a few directed DVD sequels, but this one I actually remember coming out in 2007. Of course, I was only 16 at the time, so not really quite old enough to watch it, but in the long run I did see it. But yeah, I like the premise, when it's 30 days of nighttime, vampires that burn in the sun will thrive. And even the alpha vampire, Marlowe, even says that as well, that they should have come there a long time ago. And even then, they make it, as they're about to leave, look like a town accident, disaster and stuff. But of course, Eden in the end injects himself with vampire blood and becomes a vampire to fight Marlowe. And of course, the vampires leave after he manages to overpower Marlowe and kill him. And like I said, they leave and Eden burns in the sunlight with Stella at his side. So yeah, I liked our cast in this. They were familiar faces. Josh Hartnett, who is no stranger to horror movies at all, but has had his fair share of other genres as well. Melissa George I'm not too familiar with, but I've seen her in a handful of movies. Danny Huston, I mean, he's from Hollywood royalty. His dad John Huston, his sister Angelica Huston. He's been in many films as well. But I feel is one of those kind of underappreciated actors that are just known as one of them guy actors, and should have a bit more appreciation. Always good in antagonistic roles. And as the chief vampire, Marlowe, he is scary. The vampires, I like the vampires in this. They weren't like the romantic kind or anything like that, or had just the fangs and that. These were like brutal, savage monsters. These were like a feeding frenzy of hungry sharks that were out for blood. Even from their black, dilated eyes to their these vampires had razor sharp teeth, and they made sure they killed the people, because if they bit them or anything like that, they would eventually turn. We even get Ben Foster appear in this as like their familiar, who leads them to the town, as he's seen as some outside stranger as well. And yeah, these vampires also, they don't need an invitation to be invited into homes. They do full-on home invasions and terrorize the people of this town. And yeah, there's even a bit where we see a little girl vampire, like a little local girl that's been turned, and she's vicious, they all just have this like horrible. Which also the vampires, their names in it. They have names, but their names are never mentioned. Also, the vampires talk in this like ancient vampiric language, which I don't know if is made up or anything like that, but it's it's a good language. I mean, they have subtitles and that for it so you can read in English, but yeah, seeing them speak in their own language, them communicate in their own way, and then be like vicious predators, and they're just all having the time of their life in this movie. You know, I've not seen a vampire movie like this before. I mean, for me, I've always seen vampires as human-like creatures, but with bad intentions in that. Sometimes some vampires good, but this one kind of brought it back to like the old mythologies of vampires, where before Dracula they were like blood-sucking demons. Man, even Dracula was a blood-sucking demon. He was only toned down into a romantic when the films came out in the mid-20th century. But yeah, these monsters, these vampires are monsters. They're just covered in blood. They have the long nail claws. Yeah, I just love the vampire premise in this. And, you know, the gore as well. This is a gore fest. You know, there's, you know, and you also feel for these people that are surviving, like Josh Hartnett's leading the whole gang, and he can't save everybody, and in the end he sacrifices himself to fight off the vampires, and, well, fights off Marlowe, and the rest of the vampire clan flee, because, like, he sort of, you know, proved himself dominant. But, of course, he succumbs to the sunlight because he doesn't want to live as a vampire, and his urges probably would get the better of him eventually, and he'd lose his humanity, probably like all these other vampires. And yeah, it's just a good film with gore, violence, snow, coldness. The vampires, this is like a holiday, a summer holiday to them, because they're immune to the cold, and it's nighttime for 30 days straight. I mean, if vampires were real and they did that, you know, you'd be buggered. And some people did leave the town before the 30 days. Some people do that. Of course, Stella, she was attempting to, but wasn't lucky enough. So, yeah, 30 Days of Night. I think it was a good film when it came out in 2007. When I saw it about a year or so later when it came out onto DVD, I still think it's a good vampire movie. You know, I still do enjoy the practical stuff, the digital stuff in that. They have good effects, they have good gore. This film is just under 2 hours, 140 minutes. So, yeah, you know, it's bleak, it's dark, and there's no hope for anyone. So anyway, what am I going to give 30 Days of Night? I'll give this... I mean, yeah, there was a bit of pacing issues with the opening act. The first act was a bit slow, not much happened, you know, but the build-up to the vampires being revealed was worth the payoff. I think I'll give this 4 icicles out of 5. 4 icicles out of 5 for 30 Days of Night. So there you go. There is my third review for today of Winter Week Sub-Zero. Have you seen this one? Let me know what you think down below in the comments. And if you like this video, be sure to give it a big thumbs up. Share with your friends and feel free to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already and to hit that notification bell. I've been Random Ross and this has been Winter Week Sub-Zero. So, see you tomorrow, and until then, don't have nightmares.